Hello friends, my name is Behroz. I'm a finance executive by profession, and in today's video I will talk about what is that one thing which is the biggest wealth killer. That is, it has the biggest chances of keeping you poor, and that is your car. So in this video I will talk about why car is the biggest wealth killer and how can you avoid buying a car in a way where you don't make yourself poor. Now before we go into the details of the video, I have two special asks for you, and this comes for free. One, press the like button as this keeps me motivated, and second, press the subscribe button so you get notified as soon as I put a new content on this channel, which is around career and financial success. So in case you are interested in your career and getting financially successful, then this channel is right for you, and smash the subscribe button. Now let's dive deep into the details. The biggest reason why car is the biggest wealth killer is because of depreciation. So what is depreciation? Depreciation is your car losing value. What does that mean? Let's say you bought a car for $40,000 and after a year or two, you are only able to sell it for $35,000 because let's say it is a used car now and it has lost its value. The reason the car loses value is, yes, it is becoming old. There are new versions of that car available in the market, or brand new versions which are available, new editions. Secondly, there has been some wear and tear, and that's why the car is losing some value. Thirdly, there is better technology in the market as well, which is available, and hence no one wants this old car. And if someone would buy this old car, they will pay less for it. They won't be paying $40,000 that they initially paid for a new car. They would be only paying less. Now, a car loses 10% of its value the moment you drive it out of the showroom. So a brand new car that you purchased, as soon as you drive it out of the showroom, in that 1 minute, it loses 10% of the value. Which is, if you go back in the showroom and say, oh, actually I changed my mind, I don't need this car anymore and I want to sell it back, it will be for 10% less. So let's say you bought the car for $40,000, now you can only give it back to around $36,000. So $4,000, which is 10% of the value, is lost in the first minute. 20% of the car's value is lost in the first year. So if you go back to the showroom and say, I don't need this car, or maybe if you sell it in the secondary market, you will not be able to sell it for more than $32,000, because if the car price was $40,000, 20% depreciation, which is $8,000, and now you would only be able to sell it for $32,000. And in 5 years, it will lose 60% of its value. So the car loses value very fast. And this, what I'm talking about, is relatively those cars which are in a good value range, like cars which don't lose a lot of value. If you go into more exotic and premium cars, they lose value even faster. So probably in 5 years time, it won't lose just 60% of its value, but maybe 80% of its value. And hence car becomes the biggest wealth killer because it loses its value very fast because of depreciation. So when you buy an expensive car, you lose the value very fast. And if you go back to sell that car, well, you'll only get peanuts in your hands. Now, the second key reason on top of depreciation that car is the biggest wealth killer is also because it's an emotional purchase, which is you want to buy a certain car out of certain value. When you go to the showroom, you are tempted to buy a better version, a one with better additions, a one which has leather seats and so on and so forth. And suddenly you end up paying more than what you can afford. And now since you've paid more, the depreciation is even more on that car. The car will lose its value, as I said, the moment you drive it out of the showroom. And now you've even bought an expensive car that you couldn't afford to begin with, and now that expensive car has started to lose value very fast. And talking about being an emotional purchase, again, there is a tendency of saying, okay, fine, I can't afford the car, but I will buy it on financing and on leasing. Well, if you buy the car on financing or leasing, here is an additional cost that you're paying, which is the interest rate. So currently the interest rate is somewhere between the range of 5 to 6%. So you might be paying 5 to 6% on top of the car's value every year for the borrowed amount, which adds up to the cost of the car. So if the value of the car is actually $40,000, you may end up paying $50,000 for the car over 4, 5, 6 years of financing, just because you're also paying interest. So the car is losing value from $40,000, plus you've paid an extra $10,000 over 4 to 5 or 6 years, just because there is interest cost that is involved as well. And last but not the least, remember, when you purchase your car, there are other costs that are associated with it. Insurance, taxes, registration, fuel, repair and maintenance. All of this adds up. So whatever is the value of the car that you are buying, assume that you are actually paying twice that amount. So if the car that you are buying is for, let's say, $40,000, over the lifetime of 8 to 10 years of that car, you will end up paying $80,000 for that car because of all these additional costs. This is a rule of thumb which you can safely use for any car value. Similarly, if you go for financing, let's say your financing cost in total every month that you pay for the car is around $500, you can simply assume that your actual cost is $1,000 for the month, including insurance, fuel, taxes, registration, repair and maintenance. So twice the amount. So why you may think that you are only buying a car for $500 and you can afford it, actually the cost is $1,000. So this was all doom and gloom. Now let's talk about how you can go about making a car purchase happen in a way that it doesn't drain your finances and doesn't put a pressure on your wealth. Now, the number one tip here is buy a second-hand car, period. I've never in my life purchased a first-hand car and I don't recommend it at all. Here, the best guidance is to go for a car which is 2 to 3 years old, not older than 3 years and not younger than 2 years. This is a good benchmark where you'll find a car which is relatively healthy, doesn't have a lot of maintenance and repair cost, doesn't have a lot of mileage on it. While it may still be expensive, but you will avoid the first year of depreciation, which is around 20%, because the first year depreciation is 20% and then the percentage decreases for the later years. So you want to avoid that first dip of 20% and buy the car which is already 20 to 30% cheaper by buying a car which is second-hand. So always buy a second-hand car. Again, a 2 to 3 year old car won't be very old in any case. You'll still enjoy the new feel of the car. It will be just a few mileage that the car has taken on itself, and that's good enough for you given the amount of money that you will be able to save. Second is pay cash for the car. Don't go for financing, because financing makes it look sweeter and easier. It makes it look as if you can afford the car. Oh, it's only $300-400 that I'm to pay every month and that is fine. But if you're paying those $400 every month for, let's say, 6-7 years, it will add up. You will be paying a lot of interest on that car for those amount of years, plus the value of car itself, and hence you will eventually end up paying a lot of money for that car. By the way, I've made a separate video on the topic where I explain the math as compared to why it is better for you to buy a beaten up car today, which is very cheap and delay gratification, as against trying to buy a car on financing and end up paying far more on the financing cost of the car. The third most important piece is to take total cost of the car in consideration, which is including insurance, repair and maintenance, fuel, taxes, registration, all of it, and then make a comparison versus not having a car. So let's say you have 10 trips per month that you have to do to your workplace because you work 1 day every week or 2 days every week from the office, and it adds up to be around 10 days per month that you have to be in your office. So these are 10 trips that you need to do to your workplace. If you buy a car, let's say for $500, the actual cost is not $500, it's actually double, $1,000. So $1,000 for 10 trips is $100 per trip. Now, are you better off going for an Uber for those 10 trips, or should you buy a car? What is the cost per trip with an Uber? Let's say the cost per trip with an Uber is $80. So you're better off Ubering as against buying a car, because when you buy a car, your cost per trip is $100. When you Uber, your cost per trip is $80. So you're better off Ubering as against buying a car. So do that math, but when you do the math, make sure that you include the total cost of the purchase of the car and not just the cost which is on the paper. Fourth important consideration is limit the number of cars per household. This is the case for me. So typically speaking, in US and Canada, you will find a household having 2 cars, especially if they are 2 adults and 2 kids. Usually they will have, or typically speaking, they will have 2 cars. I'm one of those exceptions where I only have 1 car for the family. I used to have 2 cars, then I ran the math and I realized we don't need 2 cars, and exactly I ran the math as I ran the math for you previously, which is how many times do I need the second car, which is certain number of trips per month, which added up to being around 4 trips per month. So I was paying around $500 for that car monthly, and then again add the total cost of the car, which makes it $1,000, which is around 5 trips per month. So 5 trips per month is around $200 per trip. Well, I can find an Uber which is much cheaper than paying $200 per trip, and hence we decided that for those instances where we will need a second car, which we do at times, but it is not more than 4 or 5 times a month, then we will Uber. And hence we've been able to save major cost by not purchasing a second car, rather getting rid of the second car and saving money, which I only went and invested in the stock market, and it has been earning better returns as against just sitting in the garage. Next important one is related to the cost of owning a car, which is insurance. Insurance could be very high for you, so make sure you shop around for insurance and compare different insurances. One website that I used in order to compare insurances is NerdWallet. So if you go on NerdWallet, you can find numerous insurances available. You can compare them and find the best one for yourself. Make sure you find the best one in terms of rate and in terms of services and coverage that particular insurance provided. Now, the next important one is to make sure that you continue to maintain your car properly. This serves two purposes. One is you won't have to incur high maintenance costs just because you're maintaining your car well, you're doing the oil change, the filter change and all. Since you're investing in your car as you're going through, you won't have to go through major repairs. And second is, while still the car has lost a lot of value, it still has some value. So anytime you want to sell the car, you will be able to get a good value for that car in case you've maintained it properly. This was the case for my car, which I sold, which is the second car we had. When I went for selling that car, I got good value for that car just because I was maintaining it well. Last but not the least, make sure you don't do unnecessary upgrades. Again, don't do any upgrades in the car at all. Only repair and maintenance. Good enough for your car to continue functioning, and that is it. Don't upgrade anything in the car because this will be all wasted. Any money that you put for upgrading the car will be zeroed out. It won't be recovered at all. Zero. Thank you for watching this video. Hopefully after watching this video, you will realize that car is something that can easily take you to dumps in terms of your wealth. Make sure you avoid all the mistakes and make sure you make a wise car purchase. In case you found value from this video, I'm sure you'll find value from another video where I talk about how you can go about choosing between leasing, financing, and cash. You can check it out here. Other than that, there is another video on my channel where I talk about how you can go about investing smartly in the stock market. You can check it out here. Thank you.